Hey visionaries, welcome back to the Your Biggest Vision Show. I'm your host, Leah, and I am very excited to have Shannon with us here today. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, Leah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you for having me. So for all of you listening, you are in for such a treat. Shannon is one of my clients, one of my favorite clients, not that I have favorites. And I'm so excited for her to be here because she is one of the most empowering, thoughtful, and just truly compassionate people I know. And so having her with us today is really going to be so inspirational for all you out there, especially all you women out there, and especially all you moms out there. She has a really great story, but she has a really great way of lifting other people up. And I wanted to have her on because she has an extraordinary story of turning pain into purpose. And you all know how near and dear that is to my heart, especially given what happened to me after losing my dad. So I really love highlighting anyone who can share something like that, because though for me it was my dad, it's not really about that. It's just about turning all pain that we all have, we really do all have it, into something that matters. And Shannon's done an excellent job. So let's go ahead and dive in. Shannon's the founder of an amazing coaching company called Love, Strength, and Grace. And do you just want to give us a little background about your business, Shannon?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So my passion is really focused on women, getting them from where they stand now to where they want to be. And that's done by creating this inward shift and focus. So we're not worried about what's happening externally as much as we are getting these women in touch with their goals, with their hopes, with their desires, and then putting in place intentional action to move them forward in pursuit of those goals. And really the trigger for me to focus on that was my divorce, but it's a common theme among a lot of women is to be, not lost, but a little bit questioning who they are and what their purpose is. And so really to get them to focus in on their values and themselves is something I'm hugely passionate about.
I'm so excited to unpack this more. And I'm so glad that this is it's one of the reasons I love your business so much. I just was talking on another podcast episode about how dangerous it is for entrepreneurs to get caught up in the type of business they want to start, whether it's coaching or courses or blogging or whatever, because they're not really leading with the mission that they have, which if you have a mission, it doesn't matter which avenue you do it on, you can always, get it out there. So I love that that's where you focus on. And you are a certified life coach and you work with amazing women. But before we get into your business, I want to go back a little bit. So take me to your childhood. What did you think your career was going to be?
So I grew up in a close-knit family. I'm one of five. I'm the middle child. So family has always been a foundation of my life. Just something that I've always been enjoyed being a part of, and just having a lot of people around, a lot of gatherings, a lot of things to do. And so that's always been foundational to me. I knew I wanted to be a mom. I knew I wanted to be a mom who was present and, involved in their kids' lives, and being able to see them watch and grow and do and experience was something really important to me. As far as a profession, I grew up in the category of liberal arts colleges. So it was like, go and then you explore and see what you want to do. And I had a great experience in college, studied abroad, and felt like I got, a good handle on a lot of different aspects of life. And, but personal development has always been a thing for me. I love to learn. I love to grow. I love to dig into the whys and investigate things. I'm a very curious person. I ask a ton of questions. And so, coaching has been, a great fit for me because it allows me to be present for my family, but to exercise that spot in my life where I am very curious and I want to help people. I want to dive into what it is that makes them tick and how are they going to live their best life? Like what purpose do they have? Why were they created? What are they meant to do with the gifts and talents that they've been given? And so it's just been a really great fit for me.
So did you envision yourself owning your own business ever? Did you have an entrepreneurial bug?
No, I really. It's funny because other members of my family do. And so once I saw that was possible, and once I started to investigate that avenue a little bit more, it was like, wow, there's this whole other world out there. And I'm so glad that I did, because people like yourself are such a role model for what's possible. And it takes a lot of hard work.
It does.
And it seems like it's this awesome, just easy peasy go. And it's probably quite the opposite of having a, structured job, because there are no strict boundaries and there are no no path in front of you. You get to create it. So
Right.
I didn't have that bug. But I certainly do now.
Yeah.
Based on the program that I went through for my life coaching certification kind of opened that door a little bit. And then the other programs that I've been involved in have gotten me digging deeper into what's possible.
Amazing. So, okay. So you didn't really have the entrepreneurial bug, but you loved personal development. You're obviously such a naturally compassionate person. And then you get married. How old were you when you got married?
I was 26.
You were 26. Okay. So you weren't like crazy young. And then you have your two beautiful daughters and you are a stay-at-home mom at that point, right?
Yes. So I was working and then I consulted from home when our first daughter was born. And it was an awesome opportunity. And then when I was pregnant with our second daughter, I realized like having 2 under 2 and a full-time consulting job probably wasn't going to provide me the fulfillment and the balance that I was looking for at that time. So then, yes, I became a stay-at-home mom. And focused on raising them.
Was any part of that a hard decision? Did you feel like you were sacrificing any part of your career?
At the time, Leah, I didn't, because back to my childhood, that essence of family really was just so ingrained in me. And I knew I always wanted that.
Right.
And so it was just very natural for me.
Right.
Now, given the course of events that I've gone through, would I instill in my daughters, my nieces, other women girls that I come across, more of a forward focus to say you don't have to choose one or the other. It doesn't have to be stay at home and raise kids. You can have a hybrid, and it would be beneficial to kind of consider that as you're doing those things, as you're making those decisions and crossing those life paths. So no, it wasn't a hard choice for me at the time. Given my course of events, it became something I looked back on and thought, should I have structured that a little differently? Ultimately, I came to the conclusion that no, I shouldn't have, because if I had, I wouldn't have the relationship that I have with my daughters. I wouldn't have had the experiences, and I don't regret that then, based on where I am now, where they are now.
Great. That's so powerful. And I mean, I know the answer. I think anyone listening probably knows the obvious answer. The question I want to ask you is, how are you instilling that in your daughters? How do we teach women that it's an and, not a but, when it comes to your family and your career? This is something that I feel like is talked a lot about, because women are wanting to work more than ever, but is still not like that easy to solve. Right. And I know that you're really doing an amazing thing by leading by example. Like, you're showing your daughters, you're starting your own business, but is there anything else that you want to say to your younger self, or you want to say to me as I'm about to get married, about how to think more consciously about the two, practically speaking, when you have a young kid? Yeah,
because I lead by example. So I say to them, anyone in this chapter of life knows it's now summer. And so it's like this vastly different 90 days than the rest of the year is. Right. And so, even recently the girls have said to me, wow, like, what's that going to mean for us now that you do have the business and you are working? Like, what's that going to be like, Mom? And I said, it's really good for them to see, Leah, because it's like, okay, girls, these are the chunks of time today where I'm uninterruptible. And so let's connect ahead of that, answer any questions you have, get you all set up. And then Mom needs to do these things. And here's the reasons why. God gave me these gifts and talents. There's other people that need my help. There's other women that are going through a real struggle, girls, and they need to connect with someone on that. And you need to do your thing. And it's healthy for us to be individuals and then come back together and reconnect. And like, what was your day like? What was my day like? And it's healthy for them to see that the world doesn't revolve around them 24/7. And it's healthy for them to see me as a woman, as a professional, not just a mom, because it gives them that example to live into. So that's just kind of like in the unspoken way. And then we do have conversations about like, okay, what are you good at? What do you love to do? Yeah. And what would that be like going forward? Like, how would you want to learn more about that? And what would that be like if, when you go to college, or what would you, and they're little. So these are, kind of high level things. But I do in so many words say to them, if I had to do it over again, I think I would choose something that I wouldn't have to stop doing when I have my family, that I could continue on and having support in place that would allow you to do that and still be very present for your family, I think is where the magic happens. Because it doesn't have to be this choice. You know, you
Right.
can be fully present for your family, very supportive, very involved, and still have that which allows you to shine your light out into the world.
Right. I have chills throughout like that whole thing. But I think one of my favorite things is that everything you're saying is an example of quite a spiritual belief, which is that God gives us, you know, what we need when we need it. There's always a way to do things. And so if you are raising a family and you need help, get creative, find a way to get support, find a way to have someone help you. We do not need to like think that there are limits on ourselves or what we can and can't do. And I just love that you don't even have to like say it explicitly to still be teaching that principle. And I think that that's just amazing. Okay. But going back to your story. So you have your girls, you end up staying as a mom for a little while.
Yep.
And then a few years later, everything in your life changes basically overnight.
Absolutely. Completely turns on its ear. And I remember, sitting in a therapist's office, and it was the moment when I knew for sure that our marriage was over. And it was like time stopped, Leah. And I watched him walk out with a cup of Starbucks coffee. I could still see it very vividly. And I remember thinking, the whole rest of the world is still going. Like there's people going to Target right now, and there's people having lunch together, and there's people doing their normal everyday things. And my life as I know it will never be normal again. And it was an indescribable moment. Those that have gone through divorce or a major life event or tragedy or trigger know the feeling that I'm talking about. And there just aren't any words.
Right.
I mean, it can grab your heart and squeeze it to the point where you don't think you're breathing anymore.
Right. The moment of, how is this happening? This can't be happening. How did this happen? It's completely paralyzing.
Yeah.
So what do you do in that moment? What did you do, and what would you tell someone to do?
Yeah. So it becomes very foundational to get back to the very simple but powerful things in life. So for me, it was getting God involved, praying a lot, and getting support. So professional support via a therapist, via a coach, via whoever it is, whatever you're dealing with, that is armed and ready to walk you through that path. Getting support in emotional support for your kids if you have them, support for a significant other if they're involved. And it's really about taking care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. Because if you go down, the whole ship goes down.
Right.
And this will not last forever. This chapter will not. The pain may never be gone. The heartache may never be healed in the way that you stood before that event happened. But I firmly believe that we can all move on and grow and love again and have an incredible life despite whatever it is that has happened.
I totally agree. And thank you so much for sharing that time with us. I feel like I can really feel what it was like for you. And I really can't even imagine. One of the reasons I love is not the right word, but one of the reasons I think it's important to talk about these moments of tragedy is because I think that in entrepreneurship, which anyone who's listening to this show is most likely an entrepreneur, the best entrepreneurs it's not about how smart you are. The number one thing I see is that it's about how quickly you can say, this just went wrong. I just failed. No one bought anything. I don't have any money. Like whatever bad situation is happening. And instead of going into some sort of spiral about it, instead of not sleeping about it, instead of creating a lot of drama around it, however, you can quickly think, okay, this is where I am. What's next? And I think that what you went through and any sort of immediate tragedy or just any quick moment where your life changes, it's that same principle on a much huger scale, of course, but it's one of the things that is the hardest but most important thing to do is to come to the place where you think, okay, I can't live in denial anymore. This is what's happening. How can I move forward? And how do you help your clients do that? And how do you help them do that while still honoring the pain? You know what I mean? Because you don't want to totally close out what's actually going on, but you also don't want to pretend it's not.
Correct. No, and you bring up an incredibly great point, and thank you for doing that, because it is such a sensitive area when people are in pain and feeling like, they're never going to be able to be whole again.
Right.
And so it's so important to acknowledge the emotions that we're feeling. And we're drilling it down to labeling that word so that it's very understood, whether we're hurt or we're devastated, or we're angry or we're furious. Like, it sounds very simple, but when we can actually label it so specifically, it really helps us to nail that down. And then we feel the emotion. And I'm giving them tips and tools and strategies, whether it's journaling or affirmations or a vast array of things that we're doing to deal with those emotions. Because you're right, you cannot put them under the carpet, because they're only coming back bigger and stronger and more fierce at some later date. So we need to get through them now and process them now. The second point is this process is happening.
Right.
So acknowledging that, you can only, with divorce specifically, you can only draw out the process so long. The process is moving forward. There are dates and times that are going to happen, whether you're on board and you've responded or not. So acknowledging that there are really two outcomes. You can stay in the point that you're in for as long as you choose to stay there, or you can start the process of moving forward. Because at the end of the day, we all get to the other side of divorce, but there's two aspects that we're in control of. One is how quickly we get there and how we show up for the process. So again, we can stay stuck in that victim mode and nothing will change, Leah, until we decide to change ourselves. Or we can decide to take intentional action to show up for the process, which will change who we are. We will be building habits as the process is unfolding that then make us different women on the other side of divorce. And I firmly believe, and I've told my girls this too, not because their dad and I are not together anymore, but because of what we've gone through, I'm absolutely a better woman today than I was before it. Wow. And it's possible for everyone, but there's work required along the journey. And it doesn't mean that I'm not sad that family unit isn't intact for them. It doesn't mean that he and I are adversaries, because we're not. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to brush it off and say like, oh, I'm glad that happened. That's not the case. I feel that deeply. I am sad that didn't work. But I have this one life to live. And if I don't take intentional action to be the woman who I want to be for my kids, for myself, for the world at large, then I will stay stuck in the past and I'll replay those stories for myself and nothing will change.
Right. It's so important to not negate anything as you go through a huge transformation. You can be happy with how things have come out and be sad that this is what happened. It doesn't cancel each other out. I think one of the most powerful things that you do, Shannon, and one of the reasons I love your business so much and you is because I feel like you're really able to get women to a place where, kind of like what you were saying too, where they can be even better than they were before, or even happier, or have a new chance to design life the way they want to. And, for lack of a better phrase, it's sort of like you don't help them just survive the divorce or whatever transformation you're going through. I know you help women with a lot more than divorce, and we'll get to that in a second, but you really can help them thrive through it and kind of reinvent themselves. And it is an opportunity. All pain is an opportunity to decide how can you even better your life, not just sort of survive through it. When you're in the thick of it, though, that doesn't sound appealing. You don't want to sound like, it's not that exciting to sound like, oh, I'm going to somehow become better through this terrible thing. How do you speak to that woman that's in that place when you know that she has so much potential and this could be and will be actually, there is a light at the end of the tunnel and she just isn't even excited about that?
I take myself back to the days, Leah, where I felt that pain, where I was completely overwhelmed, where I was so hurt and so scared and so angry that I couldn't see any sort of possibility. I'm like, this isn't what I worked for. This isn't the life I painted. This isn't the future I imagined. And so I put myself back in those days and I try to sit with her in that space as she can cry, vent, process those emotions, and we release that catabolic negative energy. And just let her, and I sit with her and let her be in that. And then we talk about the realistic next steps that are possible, that are in alignment with ultimately what I know is possible for her, but she doesn't yet jump that far, but we take the next step and the next step and the next step after that. So they're small and they're incremental. And I have the benefit of seeing what's possible because I've lived that. Right. And I don't have to articulate that to her yet. I just need to show her the next step while acknowledging and being very real with where she is in the present moment. To stay very encouraging, to shine the light of hope, while being very particular about what is right and real for her in this moment.
Oh my God, that is just amazing. And I love how you said earlier that you're armed and ready to go through this with that woman. And even though she can't see point A to point Z, she can do point A to point B, and you still have that bigger picture for her at heart. It's just incredible. So going back though to your story, so this terrible thing happens and then you start a business. You're now a single mom and you went through this hugely traumatic experience and you decide to start a business in the thick of it. Walk us through that.
So we were living in Tampa, Florida at the time when we were married, and the divorce was happening, and my former husband is relocating to New York City, and the girls and I were relocating to outside of Philadelphia. So we had a 2,000-mile move in front of us, and the girls were little at that point, Leah. And I had such an amazing experience in marriage and family therapy while I was going through my divorce. I just felt this calling to do the same, to help other women, to see what's possible. Like, this does not have to be life is over. Yes, it is hard. Yes, it is heartbreaking, but it is not the end. And so I applied to get my master's in marriage and family therapy, got accepted. It was weekend accelerated. So it was Friday night, 5 to 9, Saturday, 9 to 6, Sunday, 9 to 6. And then I would drive to New Jersey to pick my girls up and drive home.
Oh my God.
On Sunday night. And then studying, they're not in school full time. So we're doing, we're on board, single mom, full-time mom, and then studying for my full-time master's, 60 credits. I'm like adjusting. They've never seen snow before. We're like, we're new friends, new school, new house, like new family dynamic. And I got to the point where I'm like, what am I doing? And trying to run these parallels that I never had before. I'd been able to focus solely on my family. And now I have this other priority. And how am I going to do this? And in the center of it was the storm. And it just wasn't, the timing just wasn't meant to be. Like my girls needed me to be grounded in what was going on. Okay. So I took a pause from my master's program and turned my eye to coaching. Fell in love with the concept of the positivity that is in coaching. We're going to talk about where you are, and we're going to acknowledge what's difficult and what's happened, but we're looking ahead. The rear view mirror is not our focus. We're on to what's next. There's a reason why the windshield is so much bigger than the rear view mirror. And so that's where we're looking towards. And so then I decided to get my coaching certification. So I was in a year-long program, very intense, hundreds of hours in coaching itself, coursework, group work, peer work, mentor work. And then I did a couple entrepreneurship programs as well. Obviously, that's where you and I were blessed to meet. I was blessed to meet you. And so,
it is very mutual.
Thank you. And so that's really how I worked to achieve that and then start my own business. And I couldn't be happier.
Amazing. So specifically you like coaching, or the difference for those listening, and especially the woman who might be going through some sort of trauma, the difference between coaching and therapy is that it is forward facing.
Yes. Therapy really digs into the past and why things happen, and looking at the structure of like your family dynamic that you grew up in, and sort of more diagnosing what could be wrong. And coaching is not associated with the medical professional field. So it's not regulated in the same aspects, which actually opens up some doors for flexibility, meaning we can do it virtually from anywhere at any time. It doesn't have to be in a physical space, but you still have all the confidentiality clauses in place. And their therapy is really driven by the therapist, because they have all of the education and knowledge and can diagnose, can pick apart, can use theory to assess the situation, where coaching is really forward focused and client focused. It's like, if you come in today and you want to decide to talk about, this aspect of the divorce, I'm going to follow your lead, but I'm backed by all of the tools and strategies and tips and the knowledge to get you there, to get you on that path.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, as you know, my focus is business, what I work on with my clients, but it always ends up being just as much, if not more, mindset.
Yeah.
And in that way, I do coach them. And what I love about it is it's all about asking questions. It's always about shining a light on what people can't see within themselves. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that's hugely powerful given where your clients are at. So tell us a bit more about your clients, the woman going through divorce, but I know that you work with a lot of other women too.
Sure. And just to back up one step, both therapy and coaching have their place. And there's
Yes.
absolutely times where people need to be in both worlds because they will deal with different aspects of things. And so I am a huge proponent of both therapy and coaching. Don't mistake that. Both are hugely valuable, especially in a process like divorce or loss or tragedy or something like that. So just to add that caveat, I'm a huge client of both and proponent of both.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. It's
Yeah,
important.
sure. So the type of women that I work with, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. So I really work in a couple different categories, but the base is the same, the foundation is the same, and the why is the same. The why a woman would come to me is because she's lost a bit of herself. She's lost a little bit of her power, and she's kind of searching for what's next. How am I going to do this? So for my divorce clients, it's the women who are going through a divorce, whatever chapter. Maybe they just found out like something's really wrong. They're in the thick of it in the legal proceedings and they're needing additional support and help. Or they could be, the papers could be signed and they're trying to redefine themselves after this chapter of divorce. And so what we really do is dig into their values. What is it that they want this outcome to be on the other side? We're processing their emotions and moving them through those difficult conversations, interactions, momentous occasions, the moving out of the house, the first time they need to drop the kids off for the weekend, the things that no one really understands or anticipates, but can be crushing in the moment. And so we're digging into who she is. What does she want on the other side of this divorce? And how is she going to show up to walk the process? I also work with groups of women who are stay-at-home moms who don't feel like it's enough anymore. And we can get into a place where we're feeling a little bit dull because the tasks are monotonous and they're not always glorified and they're not always gratified. And so you can be standing there thinking like, you know, all I did today was make a meal and pack a bag and pick somebody up and bring somebody home and ask questions for the test. And then it was time to make dinner and somebody needed a bath. And at the end of the day, what did I do?
Who was I? Yeah.
Right? Where did I get to show up? And I don't say that in a selfish way. I say it in a very self-care focused way. And I know that's a buzzword, but we were all created for a specific purpose.
Right.
And yes, it can be in love and service of others, but that doesn't mean that our place is not a priority. And I think for so many women and moms in general, we put ourselves last on the list. And that's necessary when they're babies, when they're little, you know, when they need to be driven somewhere, when they need emotional support. Of course, we're going to prioritize that. Right. However, how are we putting that stronghold in our lives? How are we intentionally setting aside time, energy, effort to maintain ourself, mind, body, and soul? Because to go back to what I said at the beginning, I don't think it has to be this choice anymore of, am I going to stay home with my family or am I going to be a working woman? Now, that doesn't come without its challenges because you have to be very intentional and very set with your boundaries and have support and understanding around what that looks like, but it's possible. So in both groups, in the divorce set and also in the mom set, the work is the same because I think we as women, and I put myself in the first spot in this line, give away our power. I did it. And I didn't do it intentionally. I did it in the spirit of compromise because we got married and I thought, okay, this is what we're going to do. He needs to travel for work or whatever. And I want to be home with the girls. So this is a great match. But I didn't preserve myself in that, Leah. And I didn't hold my light strong. And so I became a wife and a mom and I consulted for work and I lived far from my family. So I tried to do other things to keep those relationships intact. And so it was this and this and this, and it's like this layer of an onion. And what we really need to do is get back to the core of who we are so that we can be the best self, so that we can care for those that we love and support and care about. I'm a better mom because I own my own business, because I can say to my girls, this is what I did today, and this is what I learned, and this is who I am, and they can see that.
Right.
Versus just existing for somebody else.
Right, right. Oh, so amazing. So what would you say? So a woman, will come to you. She has a stay-at-home mom. Maybe she's an empty nester. Or she's not. She has young kids. She's totally lost herself. I totally dig the onion thing. She's way deep in there and cannot find it. What type of results, or what are 3 outcomes that you usually see, or that you hope you can get people to? I never use the word guarantee because people need to take responsibility for themselves, but what 3 outcomes could someone expect at that point? And I think for some reason, I don't know why I know this, but I have often heard some empty nesters, or people I've talked to, they'll do this thing. Well, they'll try to just try anything and see if it sticks, and they're not really doing it with a whole lot of intention. They're just kind of trying to do something different. Yeah. So what outcomes do you offer, and how do you make the difference of doing them with such intention?
Sure. So it's about getting you and I have talked about this. It's about getting in alignment with who they are and what they desire. And because otherwise you get washed away by the to-dos and priorities of everybody else. Right. So we need to be very intentional about your priorities. And so we work on our top 3 values. Is it financial security? Is it your faith? Is it being physically active and fit? Is it nutrition? What is it? Because it's different for all of us. So my habits that I've created to take care of myself are very different than anybody else's, because of my values may be different than yours. So we work on the top 3 values, and we put in place a daily habit in support of each of those 3 values. So we're creating a habit of prioritizing herself. And we need to work with her schedule. So maybe she's not a morning person, but she does have kids that are in preschool 2 hours a day. So there becomes a chunk of time that we create for her. So we're getting in alignment with who she is based on what she values in life. We're also focused on creating that habit of prioritizing her. And that's all the mindset work. We can't be focused on everyone else all the time and expect to be happy and shining the light on who we are. Right. And then another big chunk of the work we do is gratitude. Because I think that when we can take a step back and look at our life and have some perspective on all that is good and all that we have, you could live the same day and have a really different outcome based on your attitude when you're looking at it from a place of gratitude. Yeah. And so, you may have 2 little ones that are driving you insane, and your brain may feel like applesauce at the end of the day. But and I know this to be true from my own past, if I switched my mindset and realized I chose this. Because the other alternative is I'm at work or I'm in an office and I'm calling whoever is with them, or I'm receiving the pictures of the mess that they made. Right. Versus being the one who experienced the laughter. And I'm not trying to be like Pollyanna, everything's great all the time. It's not. Right. But when we can come from a place of gratitude about all that is good and that which is right, it really changes our mindset. And there's a lot of times women are like, I'm actually, you're right. There's a lot that I'm actually good with because I did choose it. And that's what I want. Right. Right. Shannon, you are doing amazing work in the world. I love that this is what we get to talk about, and that this is the work that you're doing. It's so inspiring. Okay. Wow. So I'm blown away by your story. I'm constantly blown away for how you've handled your divorce and the person you've become. And I just think that you embody your business name of love, strength, and grace so perfectly. And I think we all are, can relate on some level to the work you do to make sure people are living with the person that they are and the person that they want to be, and in alignment with who they are. And I really appreciate you even giving us tactical steps on things anyone can do listening to this right now to make sure that they're putting themselves first, and that they are, making it a daily habit to
reflect on what they're doing and the choices that they're making and the way that they're spending their lives. And I also really appreciate the clarity that it is not selfish. I'm going to say it again. It is not selfish. It is the least selfish thing you can do to make the most of yourself. You will be a better mom. I know I'm I think about this stuff all the time. I'm better at everything when make sure that I'm taken care of. So this was hugely helpful and very actionable. And I have a few speed questions for you, but is there anything else you want to share before we get into them?
No, just thank you so much for the opportunity. I adore you. You know that. I respect you so much and am honored to be here today. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. You're very inspiring. All righty. Your biggest vision questions. What do you do when it feels like the world or your daughters are fighting against your vision?
I do take a deep breath and I step back and I get intentional with a prayer. And I did it this morning because this is our first day of summer vacation. And so that's a big jump. It's like a cliff we're jumping off, like everyone's priority shifts and change and the schedule is different. And so I take a deep breath and I get intentional and I say a prayer to ask for God's will and the strength to do what's necessary in the moment. So for today, it was to pay attention to the priorities and to be present for those that I love and care about while still working towards the goal and the will that He has set for me.
Beautiful. I love that you just ground it in spirituality, and it even mirrors, what we talked about earlier about how you're honoring what you're doing today and you're letting go and releasing and making sure that your faith is there and that you believe everything is happening the way it should be for you. What are you most proud of in your life so far?
Probably the woman who I am and am able to be, based on my love and willingness to learn and grow.
Amazing. That's something to be very proud of. What is a book or podcast that you recommend that helps you build your business?
Any book by Brene Brown. I think she is an incredibly intelligent woman who has done a boatload of research on human development and human personalities. And I think she has so much wisdom in her delivery. She's funny, and I love the opportunity to learn from what she's spent her life researching and working on.
Amazing. She's incredible. Okay. Yeah. This is not your biggest vision question. This is a Shannon question because I just want to hear you say it. And I feel like you've kind of alluded to it throughout our conversation. What would you say to the woman listening to this that wants to start a business or has dabbled in starting it, but has been using excuses like, I'm a mom, I don't have that much money, I don't have that much time, my job is crazy at my 9 to 5, anything else like that? In other words, putting everyone else's needs before her own, if her true desire is to start a business. You are a single mom of 2 and you've done it. So what real talk can you give us?
Sure. So it's about getting real with yourself. You look yourself in the mirror and is that what you really want? And if the answer is yes, then the second follow-up question is, are you willing to do what it takes in support of that goal? And if that answer is yes, then you need to get real clear about what that is. What does that actually look like? Because we can think about it and dream about it all we want, but does that mean that you're getting up at 6 a.m. to work for 2 hours before anybody else's feet hit the ground? Or does it mean that you're eating lunch while you're working? Or does it mean that you're not going to the gym 3 days because you're working? What does it actually look like? And are you willing to make that commitment to yourself? Are you going to show up for yourself? And what support are you going to put in place to make that happen? Is it a coach who holds you accountable? Is it a best friend? Is it yourself? Is it a parent? Are you willing to do what it takes to make what you think you want happen? And it's not easy, and there will be sacrifices, and you can't be the same woman that you were then when you make these changes. And so there are things that are going to have to give or change or shake up, and it's going to affect others. So you need to be mentally prepared and energized and ready. And then you're going to have to handle the ripple effect of those that it affects that you love and care for. But if it's really what you want, I have no doubt that she will make it happen.
I love this advice. It's so important to remember that as you step into this person, especially for you entrepreneurs out there, as you step into the entrepreneur, as you really go for it and build your business, you are going to experience an incredible amount of discomfort, both in building your business and in your personal life. And so much will change. But you know what else is uncomfortable? Being broke. It's also uncomfortable to stay exactly stuck. it's uncomfortable to live with regret. There's you get to choose your discomfort. So,
and without changing, this time of year is always very reflective for me. For most people, it's New Year's Eve, and that's great too. But for me, the end of the school year is always like, okay, where were we last year, June 12th? Where do we want to be next year, June 12th? And it's only 365 days. But if you continue to compile that, it's 6 years. And do you want to be in the exact same place? Because guess what? Nothing else is the same. So why would I not want to adapt and change with it and be out in front of the game? Why would I choose to stay stagnant and just let life happen to me? I don't want that for me or for anybody else, actually. So that's why I would love to empower her to, what's next? Let's go.
I am like so pumped up after talking to you today. I feel like I can go do anything. I'm like so happy this interview was on a Monday, because I feel like this week I'm just totally going to own it.
Thank you.
Amazing. Well, the one last question I have for you is, where can people find out more about your work?
Sure. So my website is lovestrengthandgrace.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, Coach Shannon, Love, Strength, and Grace. And you can find out more information there. I have some free offerings. People can download a checklist for how to get through divorce. I have 3 ways to step back into your power. And even if it's labeled divorce, for that does apply to the woman who's, just looking to get back into control of her own situation, when she may have been giving away her power intentionally or unintentionally to other priorities in her life, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. So
great. And we'll have those all linked in the show notes of this episode. So if any of you guys are watching this or listening via my website, then those will be below. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, Shannon. You were hugely inspiring, and I really appreciate your vulnerability here. And I'm sure everyone in the audience does too. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Leah. It was a pleasure, as always.
Oh, you're so great. We'll talk to you soon. All right. Thank you, visionaries, for tuning in. Here is to your biggest vision.